Hey guys, I hope this video finds you well. It's been a while since I've uploaded videos regarding figure reviews. And I figured, you know what? This Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice 2-pack from San Diego Comic-Con is the perfect set to start doing these videos again. So, without intro, without package, let's get right to the figures. Now, we've all seen the package in several videos and pictures, and we know what it does. What you may not know, besides the action figures you get, the action features, is that you do get a couple of extras. You do get a very nice looking Batman v Superman logo stand for your figures. And this stand has 1, 2, and 3 packs, so you can place your figures there and post them or display them on your shelf. And you also get this little tray, which includes accessories. And we're going to take a look at those in a sec. First, let's just go straight to the figures. Let's focus right there on the guys and take Batman out of the equation and take a look at Superman before we go into anything else. Because we already have Superman figures from the Man of Steel movie. And this Superman figure, although it is mostly a rehash of the previous one, it has a couple of brand new parts on him and they are very well worth the look. Let's give you a nice 360 of the upper torso and basically the upper body, including the head and the arms. Let's show you now. There you go. If you're holding your Man of Steel Superman figure right now, or if you have any notion of what this would look like in the previous movie and in the previous toys, you might have already noticed a few differences. Most noticeably, the buckle on the belt, well, or basically where the belt would be, you can tell that this figure has been retooled for the brand new movie, and of course this is all based off on the suit on the new movie. We're getting brand new boots, which they seem to be brand new all around. You seem to be getting brand new feet, lower legs, including the boot tops right there. A different pattern, or probably the same pattern as we did before, but maybe it shrunk down because they are a bit slimmer and it's a little bit tighter. That little relief or pattern that you get from the boots. Most everything else seems to be basically either the same or very similar. Big difference is, of course, the belt buckle, like we mentioned. Some of these lines, they seem a little bit more defined, so I would perhaps say that they retooled the entirety of the front chest for this figure. I mean, not the front chest, I'm sorry, the front part of the torso, which is then the chest and the abdomen, etc. But the back pieces are basically all the same. The arms and hands, they seem to be the same. Another thing that is very different is, of course, the brand new head sculpt, which looks really good. You get a brand new head sculpt. It's way more chiseled than the previous Man of Steel figure. The hair looks really nice. It's all very crisp. As you can see, I have barely... Actually, not barely. I don't have any mistakes in this figure that are worth noting. Sure, you do get a couple of... There you go. You see how that yellow doesn't really cover the entirety of the buckle right there, but it's a minor gripe. I mean, I don't really count that as a problem. There are no paint bleeds from one place to the other. No colors in the wrong place, no drips, no specks, no nothing. The head looks amazing. Oh, I just turned it and it shot me a look. Looked really cool there for a second. There you go. You get a more of a stern face on this Superman figure than the one we got with the previous figure. Now, most of my figures have custom capes, which is basically what we're getting here with my previous movie master figure. And this is just to give you a side-by-side of the Superman. As you can tell, the head sculpts are way different. Now, in my opinion, this was a great sculpt of Cavill, of Henry Cavill, or Superman from the previous movie. His hair's a little bit more rough. It's a little ruffled on top, a little spongy. This one is way, like I said, it's a little bit more chiseled. It's way slicker. The hair is combed back. As we have seen in the trailers, he has a much more streamlined look. The build of the body is the same, so he's not more bulky or anything like bulkier or slimmer. It's still the same. But one cool thing they did with this figure is that while I basically took the PVC cape off of this one and gave it a spandex one, because I just love the way fabric looks on these figures. For this San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, they included a fabric cape, and this is the way they attached it. See, they still give you the PVC plastic neckline, so you can have all that nice volume here in the front. And then they actually gave us a fabric cape, which this is very cool. This is a throwback to the old figures, the Superpowers lines, and all that stuff from Kenner way back in the day. Because this is sort of like the same fabric they used to use back then for the fabric capes. The ones that had the little plastic ring they used to clip on the back of the figures, remember those? Yeah, that's how old I am. Do not mock me, please. It has a very nice, you know, it doesn't drape really. I mean, it's not thick or heavy enough. It's kind of light. It's a bit translucent. Not right now, but if the sun hits it, you can probably see. No, you can't see it now. But if the sun hits it right, you can see my fingers. You could see them behind the fabric. It's kind of, it's very, like, you can see it. It basically drops beautifully. It's very flowy. And it doesn't curl that much, at least not in my figure. These kind of fabrics, they tend to curl up like that when you cut them. And this one is doing a wonderful job of staying open, so the figure looks pretty good. Two things are going to be different on this figure from the main figures that will be released when the line comes out into the retailers on January on 2016, and that is the color and the cape. The cape will be PVC plastic. Basically, it's the same cape that we saw on the Movie Masters from the Man of Steel, which is going to be basically this front and then the cape that drapes and expands in the back of the figure. And the color will be a bit darker, probably more on par with this figure right here from the previous movie. It's not going to be this metallic or this light color, which frankly, I really like this Superman figure, but honestly, I am really, really digging the way this is looking, because it harkens back to the comic books, and a lot of people were really complaining about the color scheme on this Superman when it first came out. Well, not this, but basically the movie iteration, saying that the reds were too maroon, they were too dark, the blues were too deep. They rather have a lighter, brighter Superman, and I think this one basically it's a callback to all those fans, and a little wink as to this is what you might have gotten if we had done it the way you wanted it. Not bad at all. Really nice figure all in all. Nothing too special about it. Again, we've seen this before. It's just slightly retooled. One thing, by the way, if you haven't noticed, is that the S symbol, the symbol for hope, the paint, while it's very crisp and clean, it does not go all the way out. You see, the relief for the S, basically the way it's sculpted, it looks like it's framed by baby blue right before you get to that red and yellow. And on the previous figure, the color just went all over the place, all the way to the edge, which is pretty much the way it should be. Because remember, the blue parts are supposed to be fabric, and then everything else is supposed to be an overlay. So this is not really that accurate. Then again, as far as action figures go, it's a minor gripe. I'm just saying that I have seen in person 2 of these packages. So basically I've seen 2 of these figures. One out of package, which is this one. There's another one around here that is still in the pack. And they're all painted the same way. Good things, on the other hand, is that both faces look great. They are well painted. There's no drips of any kind. All the colors look great. So this just seems to be, as far as the paint apps go, the resizing of it was not perfect. But it looks pretty good because it's not shifted to one side or the other. It's basically centered. So it looks to be like it's on purpose, even though I'm pretty sure it's not. Alright, let's take a look at Batman now. And this, there's a bit of a disclaimer with this Batman figure. I like it. I love it because it's Batman, and I've been a big supporter of the Batfleck ever since he got announced. But I'm not gonna lie, this is a mixed bag. The figures, they don't seem to be made by, I'm pretty sure they're not made by the Horsemen anymore. So you're not getting this, basically translated to that. you're getting something completely different. If anything, you're getting sort of like the Green Lantern movie figures translated into Batman, which means that Mattel did this job in-house. Now, don't get me wrong. The people at Mattel, they did a beautiful job with this figure. There's a couple of things that I really disliked about it. Oh, there he goes. He just can't handle the truth sometimes. There's a couple of things that are not just wrong, they're just horribly wrong with this figure. And I'm going to let you know what those things are. But again, there's just so few of them. In my mind, there's only basically two huge things that are wrong with this figure. And one of them will carry out into the main line in January. The other basically stays with this 2-pack. Gripe number one. The figure in this 2-pack has a fabric cape as well. The figures that will be coming out in January will sport PVC plastic capes. And I'm looking around. Let's see here. And here it is. The cape that is included with this figure, and by the way, it's, again, not a bad figure at all. One of the cool things about this figure, before we jump into the cape, is that the same way they did the cape with Superman, they couldn't do it with Batman, because Batman has the cowl, and the cowl comes down to the neckline. If you look at the pictures from the figures that are coming in January, this will have a little bit of a lip, which is basically the fabric of the cape, the mimicry of the fabric of the cape. That is going to come all the way around, cover part of the shoulders, and then just beautifully drape. Or mimic draping, because it's going to be hard plastic, and cover the entirety of the back, all the way down to the feet. The way they handled the fabric capes on this figure is they basically did the great job of literally copying the cowl, just as it is in the movie. If you've seen pictures of the Batsuit that Affleck wears in the movie, this is pretty much the back of his suit. That's the way it looks, which is great. And they also mimic the front part. So were we to take this head off and take the neckline off and just paint this and hollow this out and sort of like make a pretend empty cowl, we could, because it would look perfect, except for the seam, the division there from neck to head. That's how good the sculpt on this is regarding the design. Some other stuff is not that great, but as far as copying the designer, mimicking the suit itself, it's pretty neat. On execution, it kind of faltered a little because they included this beautiful cape, which is fabric. It is not the same fabric used on the Superman one by any stretch. It's basically sort of like a thin, maybe spandexy fabric, which is what normally I use for these figures. But the other side of it has a leather-like vinyl cover. So this is, in essence, is basically the way, I guess, upholstery would feel. It's meant to be leathery. And it's meant to be that way because the suit itself is just ridden with texture. Look at the texture. I'm sure you've seen this in pictures before. The cowl, the neckline, everything that's black on the suit. The gauntlets right there above the glove. The gloves are actually slick, but the gauntlets, they have the texturing. The boots all the way to the feet, they have the texturing. The belt itself, let's see here. The parts of the belt that are supposed to be leather, they are textured. The emblem itself, it's also textured. It has a different texture. It has more of a cross edge pattern to it. It's all like tiny diamonds, like little squares that are a bit askew. That's the pattern there. It's more erratic when it comes to the leathery cowl or gauntlets. It's more of a trying to simulate leather more than anything. There you go. The one in the chest is supposed to look synthetic, like maybe plastic or some sort of, I don't know, other material. But because of the figure having all this texture on it, they basically went with a leathery cape, so it would carry out the look. And believe you me, in theory, this would be great if the figure basically could sit like that. If this was the look of the figure. Like that, maybe some drape. If you could look at the figure from the side and the cape would just drop down. The problem with this is that the fabric, plus that little vinyl cover that it has, they don't play well together. This is supposed to be the top. Just grab it right here. And this is what happens to it. Now, if you look online, there's a couple of good pictures on several websites that have the figures off out of the package. And this is basically happening to all their figures. Now, the bottom of the cape is very well done as well. It doesn't have scallops, which is the little round points to them. But it does have this sort of like tethering. Like the cape has been, it's a little tattered. It's a little worn out. And it serves the purpose of the bad cape. But between the cutting and the way the fabrics, you know, meet and treat each other in this little cape, this is what you get. It curls up. It's awful. You try to get it straight down. It curls from both sides. It makes a point. It is just not working at all. It doesn't really work. It looks terrible. So, be gone, cape. I took matters into my own hands and I yanked the head off, which is don't be scared. It's pretty easy. The way these heads are designed, and this is for customizers. I know, people are dying right now. This is a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, and I just killed it. Don't worry, guys. This happens all the time in this household. Besides, the figure is not broken. I just want to show you the way the heads are done now. You see, they're not solid anymore. There's plenty of empty space there, making them quite flexible. And this right here, the socket for the ball joint, which is pretty big actually, it's very friendly when it comes to the whole yanking process. So I just basically pull the head apart, take out the cowl piece, and just replaced it there. I know. Haters, you may begin posting. But nothing will deter us from getting the best Batman figure we can get. Now, aside from that cape fiasco, and it is a fiasco, trust me, there is an even bigger thing happening here with this figure. There's an even bigger horror to speak of. And it is basically on the lower part of the figure. Now, you may not be able to notice it very well here, because I have, again, tweaked the crap out of this figure over the course of the last 3 to 4 days. The old boil and pop and the old heat and cool, this figure has been through it. There is a huge problem with the way this figure is sculpted. When you get this figure into the vanilla pose, which is basically the just standing relaxed position, not an action pose, you basically can use these lines to guide you. You see how the seam comes down from the thigh and it meets right here. Same thing happens on this end. See, when you get your lines all lined up, the knees are usually facing forward, like that. These are not that drastically out there. The feet and the lower sections of the legs, the way they're sculpted in this vanilla pose, you basically put your knees like this, and I'm not kidding you, the legs, they spread out almost like this. It is terrible. And if you have a package set at home, you can go ahead and take a look at it, and you'll notice that the way Batman is basically packaged, with a sort of like a battle stance like this, while it is actually a bit spread out and the knees are flexed, the feet are ridiculously out. And that is because the way that this is sculpted, or by God, if it actually indeed this was 3D scanned and 3D printed or 3D sculpted originally, the person or whatever it is they used as a model, they did not correct this before mass producing the figure. The knees are facing front, but the boots, you see how the knee is going this way with the leg and the boot is going that way? Same thing happens here. Leg goes this way, boot goes that way. And again, this is sort of fixed. I mean, I've been sort of like heating this up and twisting them inwards in order to correct this. But they always sort of like correct themselves and go back to their original molding position. But for now, this has managed to stay at a place where it doesn't really bother me that much. But the problem is that, again, once you bring it out of the package and you try to stand it up, the only way you can get a straight-legged Batman to stand with the feet pointing forward or a bit out, it's to actually take the knees and bend them inwards like this. And if you don't believe me, again, go online and look at the assorted Batman pictures that you can find online. There's a few great pics of Batman just standing there next to Superman. And you can tell that the figure is standing straight, but the knees are completely looking inwards. And it is just terrible that they did that to this figure. Because what that implies is that if you have the feet facing forward and you try to bend the leg, again, I'm going to twist this to show you because this is not as drastically twisted as it normally comes. But when you end up bending the leg would probably bend outwards instead of back. And it is just such a disservice to this figure, which, again, otherwise, pretty good figure overall. Besides, oh, poor guy. Again, he can't take the truth sometimes. Again, overall, pretty good looking figure. If you cannot wait to have this bad boy in your hands all the way in January of next year, you should definitely try to get your hands on a 2-pack now, because first of all, it's a beautiful display piece. Honestly, I'm a bit of a hypocrite. I do not recommend you take these out. I mean, you will get nicer, probably nicer figures when January hits. I just like these because they have the fabric capes, and I'm a sucker for taking figures out of the package. But this right here, this is a beautiful display piece. You are definitely meant to keep that in the package. Again, I'm just a sucker for taking these out, but anybody else that is not too sure about them being out of package, you should definitely keep them in that box. To me, it's a bit of a waste because, again, I love my figures out of the package. One cool thing about Batman is that he does have accessories. He comes with 3 of these little battery guns that you see right here. Now, these are exactly... where is it? There you go. These are exactly like the ones we see on the trailer that they showed at Comic-Con. Especially, like, you know the part when they have the crook that has been apprehended by Batman and he's been branded? This is, these are the batarangs that he uses. So you get 3 of those. They can be held in his right hand. There you go, like so. The right hand also has a trigger finger, which basically points at it being a grappler gun hand. But we do not get a grappler gun. But that does give me high hopes that we might get a grappler with one of the future figures. So we'll see. We'll see how that whole multiverse line pans out when it comes out in January. Articulation is pretty basic in the figures as far as movie masters go. We know that Superman doesn't have that torso articulation, and Batman does, but it's quite limited. You really can't get much out of it. You get enough, but not that much. And as far as the other articulation, while you do get really good splits, you get limited front and back. Again, these are not heavy posers. These are basically just meant to stay there just gathering dust on your shelf. And trust me, they'll look great when they're doing that. But for the most part, I liked posing mine. See how this knee, this just driving me crazy. See how the knee goes inwards? It's maddening. Could these figures be better? Yes, they could have been much better. Would I have this figure set be tackled by the 4 horsemen as they've done before in previous figures and licenses for Mattel? Yes, but sadly that is not the case, and it definitely shows. I mean, there is no comparison whatsoever. It's a shame too. But overall, again, these figures, they're not really that bad. They're actually quite nice. They were at a great price at the convention, and hopefully we might be getting these at hopefully maybe the $20 price range and not much more beyond that. Because it looks like they're going to bring accessories, and hey, for what they are pretty good. Not perfect, not the best figures out there, but I was really dying to have my hands on a Batfleck figure, and now I do, and I fixed what I didn't like, no regrets. So these are the figures out of the package, with no package and no intro. Go try to get yours if you don't have them already, and if you do, come on, take a break, take a chance, and take them out of the package. You won't regret it. Except for that leg Batman thing, but you can just stare at them from the waist up. Trust me, it's totally worth it. Signing out, until next time.